My name is Kelvin, and welcome to Two Mics. Today, I'm joined by a very wonderful panel of friends and individuals that I really respect, Sana.
Today we are going to be talking about the very hot button issue of the gender pay gap, and we hope we are going to talk about it in a different way than it's usually talked about. We'll try as best as possible to get to the root of the problem.
And we hope you're going to have value for your time. Karibuni Sana. So there's some data I was looking at on the wage gap in the United States, and I think for every, according to the solid data that is existent on the superficial data that okay, fine. No, superficial in terms of I'm saying fine. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to communicate. Anyway, fine.
But data is not just data. Data could be bogus.
Let me actually finish. Let me introduce. Let me introduce. So according to data that exists, I was seeing that men, for every dollar a man earns, in the United States specifically, for every dollar a man earns, the woman earns 0.75 to the dollar. So it kind of shows that there is a wage gap that exists. So I wanted to ask the guys on set, do you believe that there is a wage gap between men and women?
I'm prefacing my comments on this conversation. If I sound a bit impatient, it's because we're in 2020 now. This is a conversation that we had in 2015, and I don't understand why we are still having it 5 years later. There is data that shows that, yes, but that data is not skewed or false.
It's not nuanced.
Yes, exactly. It's not nuanced. It doesn't paint the whole picture. So when you... Okay, we'll discuss it. There's a picture. We'll discuss it.
I think the question here is not about the picture. It's not about the context. It's not about the different industries. Mm-hmm. It's just, is there a wage gap?
Yeah,
that's the
yes
question.
Or no.
Is there
a wage gap?
Whatever is causing that wage gap, whatever is like making this wage gap exist, is there a wage gap?
I think that's a simplistic approach because...
I don't think so. Is there a dog?
It's a simplistic approach.
We'll discuss. But is there a wage gap?
My issue is that it's simplistic. Therefore, the solutions to the wage gap problem,
Nobody is discussing
if we take that approach, will also be simplistic.
I think what Cyrus you're saying is that there is a wage gap, but we need to look at it from a more surgically. We need to be a bit more nuanced in how we have the discussion. I think that's what he's trying to communicate.
Yeah, and I agree with that.
Yes, let's say that.
Is there a wage gap? To answer it simply, I also believe there is a wage gap.
The risk of starting this conversation this way is that I am now starting from a point of it's unfair because I've been forced to say there is a wage gap. So anything I say after this, it makes me look like the bad guy who is trying to justify why this bad thing...
Not really, actually. Because I do agree that there's a difference in pay between men and women. But when it comes to how now we should address that, or even the first point where whether we should address that in the first place, I think that's where we're going to have differences. Because I personally don't think maybe that issue should be handled in the way that most... people suggest that it should be handled.
When I was in campus in my final year, I did my thesis. That was in the 5th year. In the second semester of the 4th year, we had to be given a theory class to tell us how to go about doing our thesis. So the first thing is we have recorded that there is an occurrence of a pay discrepancy between men and women. We can't deny that. That's why to your question, I couldn't say no, there is no pay gap.
Actually, and you see, I think Cyrus,
because it's a recorded.
Do you know? I'm going to say something very controversial, and I hope you people won't crucify. You guys won't.
The procedure now was you have noted something that there is a pay gap between men and women. The next step is to ask yourself, what is the reason for this? Now, my disagreement is this. The feminist argument is that this is intentional. It is malicious.
Do you know?
That is not the case.
And actually, can I say this?
The oppression
actually?
is the outcome.
Let me
but-
say this.
But that's not the intent. There's no cabal of people who are seated somewhere saying, let us pay women 77 cents to every man's dollar. That is not an active decision that is made by anyone. It is the law in so many places that you cannot pay a man more than a woman for the same work. And the catchy buzzword statement is always, the catchy buzzword statement is always, a man makes 77 cents for every man's $1 for doing the exact same work. That is demonstrably false.
I'm going to make a very controversial statement, and I'm going to say this. I do not believe a wage gap exists between men and women. I think a wage gap exists between people. So if, for example, let me explain my point. If you are to go take to bundle the population of Kenya, uchukue watu wanaishi Kino, and you compare with people living in Kikuyu, let me explain my point. You take the total income of the people living in Kikuyu and the total people living in Kino without looking at the finer details of how those incomes. My point is a very complicated issue to just compare the income of men, and then income of women, because you've basically and to what you're saying, I do not honestly believe there's someone out there deciding, you know what, I'm going to pay this woman. This woman less than the man. I'm going to quote a research paper. They were saying whatever causes difference in pay, there are very many factors.
Yes, I agree with you.
Sarah said, there's nobody who is seated somewhere saying that pay women less than men. That argument for me is no. Let me finish. That argument for me is just almost absurd. Because there's so many issues in the world, so many. There's racism. There's nobody anywhere seated saying treat black people in a racist.
It's systemic.
It's systemic, and that's the same thing.
It's not me waking up deciding.
Yeah, there's
the system
nobody
has been like this.
Yeah, there's nobody who is deciding any of these societal issues. If it was as simple as a decision, we wouldn't be here. The decision would have been very simple and very straightforward. It's not that. It's systemic. It's similar to what we were discussing earlier for why are men dying in COVID. So I think
a number of factors to be considered.
There's so many factors that need to be considered, and we need to talk about those things. Let's not. Nobody on this table, at least if anybody feels differently, they can counter. Nobody on this table feels like there is a malicious intent to pay women less.
Yes.
Nobody on this table feels that. If there's anybody who feels that, please react. What we are here to discuss is what is causing this pay discrepancy. Obviously, we cannot solve on this table.
We definitely cannot.
We can't solve for it, but we can also just have discussions around what are some of the ways we believe or we think could solve this issue. So just to lay the table around where we are at.
I agree with her, absolutely. Because we can't say there's one particular reason why women are paid less. The patriarchy is one of them.
Yeah.
We will go into that. So you just can't sit down and say, it's a decision on a table.
Yeah.
There's so many things. The working system was not meant to accommodate women as we are, with a lot of other, complications, including motherhood, and it was not designed for that. Initially it was only men who were going to work. Yeah. Then women, yes, it was designed by men and it worked for men. So the issues that are now coming up affecting women, do you think men are sitting in a boardroom saying, by the way, mnajua hakuna mali ya kupump breast milk? There's no man who will ever sit in a boardroom and think about the issues that a woman is going through in the workplace. Yes, this is not something that even crosses their mind.
For all those years women are not allowed to work, these are things that were embedded in the culture of working in all the sectors. This is how we work. Industries, which were the first formal sector when industrialization happened, industries, the way they are set up, the way they work, the way the organization runs, so in depth, embedded in that patriarchy. I'm an engineer by profession, and I worked in 4 factories before I left the engineering profession. And I can say confidently that like factories are not built for women in 2020, are not built for women. I worked for a factory in Mombasa, very big brand, where there were no ladies' toilets. That's where we are at. Like, there were no ladies' toilets. I was sharing toilets with, and that's a very, very small thing.
Because this is proof that it was designed by a man.
It was designed
by a man. This is proof that she was using the same washroom as gentlemen. You can imagine during her period what happens. Because the facilities for women to help themselves during that time of the month, they're not there. Yeah. So it was not designed for women.
Okay. I think that was wrong, but I think we were already into the discussion. So I wanted to react to what you were saying about. First of all, at the point where women started working, you were making reference to the formal sector, and during the industrialization, the factories and all that, it was mostly manual work, and biologically. And biologically, men and women are fundamentally different. I think that's something we have to agree on. Like physically, even in terms of physical strength, that men and women are different. And so that flows into the industries where you have, of course, more men coming to work and the women. And in a society where like work is only found in industries, you will of course expect to have men working and the women being at home. So we have that as the foundation, and it's only recently that we're having women work in finance and the legal professions and all that. But traditionally, work has work has been very physical, and so I disagree by the way with the both of you when you blame the patriarchy. I don't know what you mean by that. When you blame the patriarchy for the fact that women were not working and all that, I don't understand what you guys mean. And you will do us good to define.
Hold on.
There was a law.
Hold on.
Yeah, but he
We've
doesn't agree with
digressed.
me and Janira. First of all, that's like we
Inside.
need to react to that disagreement, right? He disagreed with the both of us. I don't even know where to start because there was a law written. It was a legal document written that disallowed women to work. It was a legal document. That legal document was created.
Which country?
Let's talk about the US, but most of the countries. Let's talk about the US because this report is referring to the US.
Yeah.
In this legal document was created by people, right? And we all know there was also a time that women aren't allowed to be in politics. When this legal document was written, it was written in a round table of men. Because at that time, it was unheard of that women could be in a decision-making position. So they wrote this document that disallowed women to work. That is patriarchy.
Could you hold on? Just hold on, please. Before we continue, this started about the pay gap. You've brought in other issues that I support, which are not the gender pay gap. Things about the male-only toilets, about the places to pump breast milk. Yeah. Those I support and those I agree with. But that is not a pay gap.
Okay.
No, we were just trying to prove that it's systemic. Yes. And until the day, let me tell you, until the day I see a man say that my career or the progression of my career has been affected by me having children, then believe me, the patriarchy has an effect. Yeah. Because a woman is the primary parent.
Yeah.
Hold on. Now, you said you called my argument absurd and you compared this to to systemic racism. A system is not some vague thing.
Yes, for the most part.
It's a thing deliberately constructed by people.
Yeah, but it's not a decision. It's not one decision.
Systemic racism is the result of intentional decisions to keep down people. As regarding pay, again, this is why I didn't want the simplistic approach of starting with yes or no. That's why I gave you that long-winded story about the thesis. There's a step-by-step thing you take, so that ultimately in chapter 5, when you're drawing your conclusions, they are as a result of a nuanced
discussion,
investigation into the phenomenon. So we've observed a phenomenon, that is, there is a disparity between the pay of men and the pay of women.
So
step 2 is why is that happening? What are the reasons behind that?
I'll give an
once you identify those
nuances.
Specific reasons, you can then formulate specific solutions.
Yes.
And in theory, the pay gap will reduce or no longer be there.
So this is what I'll say. I would say I'll create a contextual fact. The Scandinavian countries, they were the first egalitarian societies.
Fourth word of the day.
So when you talk about egalitarian, we are talking about they intentionally removed all the laws that sought to disenfranchise women. They sought to do second big one of the day, disenfranchise. I'm on a roll. Where? Anyway, so they sought to equalize men and women. The outcome that was expected out of this is that the wage gap would reduce, right? But then when you look at what happened, the wage gap increased. Why? Because women tended to gravitate, even now when they were allowed to do whatever careers they want to do. Women tended to gravitate towards certain careers. Men tended. Is it an English word? Men appeared. Yeah, let's appreciate. Yeah. So men tended to gravitate towards certain careers, but when you look at the careers that men went for, the pay, guys, this is a very sensitive topic. People are about to start stabbing each other, guys. Guys, I feel like we should just destroy this thing because we are about to kill each other. But anyway, let me finish my point. So I'm saying, what was realized is that men tended to gravitate towards careers in STEM, which are better paying, and women. Let me finish. And women tended to gravitate towards caring.
Why is it that those careers are the ones that actually attract a lesser pay?
Yeah.
Also,
Why?
Goja, this is proof that, first of all, you did not listen to the podcast that I sent you.
I listened.
You did not. No, because you see, the reason you're justifying why the pay gap is like that is not true. The podcast I sent you, the Bloomberg, really? Yes. I can't wait for you to hear your justification.
Tell us the podcast point for people, for the listeners. For the listeners.
For context, there was a study done in an MBA class. One of the podcasts, explained this. And let's say all of us were in the same MBA class. When we started working, when we were on 25 years old, we all earned about the same amount of money. Women earned 13% less. Than men.
That's the thing. Even in the study, that's why I've asked you whether you read the study. In the study, there's obviously this number of like 77 cents to $1. Mm-hmm. That number is a overarching number, but in anybody who does studies knows you cannot compare apples to tomatoes.
Yeah. So
they did not go and checked the men who are CEOs and then they compared them to the women who are interns.
Yeah.
That would be a very skewed way of doing analysis. Yes. They compared CEOs to CEOs.
Yes.
They compared.
I haven't finished.
They did. There's actually a stat. There's actually a stat. They showed one of the statistics is that they showed that in.
Wait.
The study shows that the executives. This is now C-level. To show you that they actually went there. C-level had the highest disparity of pay, and women in C-level were paid 68 cents to $1. So they did go there. They did do the C-level to C-level, associate to associate. That's how you're able to come up with the number that women are paid less than men.
No, listen, wait. This is back to the same class. So at the time of graduation, the women earned 13% less than men. At 45 years of age, all of them had gotten to 45. So we are all from the same class. We've had the same qualifications. Women earned 55% of what men were earning. We were in the same class, same qualifications. So, that now the question was, okay, what happens between 25 years old where the difference was 13%,
we'll get there eventually.
And now we are at 45 years old.
What happened?
Where there's a 45% difference.
We'll get there eventually.
Yes, that's a systemic problem. And then, yes.
The statistic of the 77 cents versus the $1, that data, it came about like this. Someone went to KRA or the IRS. They checked the average median income of males versus the average median income of females. I got the two figures, they divided them. That's where you got the 77. The specific talking point of the 77 cents versus the $1, it came from, they went to Ours is KRA. In US, it's called IRS. It's so different in many countries. They went and simply got the average median annual income of a woman versus the average median income of a man. One is higher than the other. If you divide it, that's where you get the 77 cents versus the $1. And I'll remind you that you'd previously said that we cannot extrapolate from one thing into those reasons he was giving are some of the reasons why that data was the inference was incorrect. As for your point of the C-suite things, I have a question. Does that data show, or is it showing that if me and you work at some big corporate, we are both at the C-suite level, let's say we are doing the same job, you're the HR manager, I'm the production manager, is it showing that we are being paid different?
I won't respond to that because I think we are
That
clutching,
our actual,
we're clutching at straws.
No. I'm asking.
I will say,
is our monthly
we still seem
income different?
We still seem to be disagreeing with the data. I think where we are
Is our monthly income different?
Let me just. I won't respond to that question.
Why not?
Because I don't know. I will say we are still clutching.
Mm-hmm.
We're still we still haven't agreed on the table. Is there a wage gap? In fact, if you read
the phenomenon is there
read,
that there is a pay disparity.
There is a phenomenon, and
Yes.
if you read the studies that are talking about that particular paper,
Yes.
again, this data may be anecdotal. As we are not researchers, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But it says that 0.77 to $1
Yes.
actually does not represent the sheer magnitude of what the wage gap actually is.
Yes.
So everybody who is disputing that data is actually not disputing the fact that there is a pay gap.
I am telling you the flawed source of that information.
They are disputing the number.
Yes.
Is there a wage gap? I think
Observably, yes.
I think we are still disagreeing on that. Is
That's
there
an
a wage
observable
gap?
phenomenon.
There
Yes.
is a wage gap,
Yes.
so we need to stop. Let's not talk about whether there's a
I am
wage gap or
asking
not.
for a more nuanced
So
approach
let's
to
talk
this matter.
about what is causing the wage gap.
Yes.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. You keep going back to is there a wage gap?
So-
There is a wage gap, and that's not something we can discuss.
The data you brought up of the C-suite, the 68 cents versus $1.
Okay.
So I am curious. You are more familiar with that info than I. Both of us working at, let's say, for example, your place of work.
It's okay.
So now that's the problem because the implication usually is for someone who might not take the trouble to do the research that I did, they genuinely believe that the person on the street who will not take the trouble to find out the source or the context of the information like I did, they genuinely believe. So when Barack Obama stood up and said that it is unconscionable, 6 big word of the day, that women earn 77 cents to every man's dollar for the same work, that is false. Because then the conclusion they draw is that me and you work at the same law firm. We are both associates, second, third, fourth year. My monthly paycheck is more than your monthly paycheck. Simply by virtue of me being a man and her being a woman.
Yes. I'll say this, and then
Really?
I'll give Tito an opportunity
Really?
to speak.
That's why I told you there is no cabal of people sitting down and saying Janita and Cyrus are both our employees. Janita and Cyrus
Okay.
are both our systemic is not some big thing.
Okay, guys.
We go into it's my personal example, my experience. My second job. I was working with a man. Man was hired before me, 2 exact same jobs, exact same job descriptions, exact same company.
Before you, man was hired before you.
Man was hired before me 1 month. 1 month. 1 month before me. Exact same job, exact same job description. That man, and I can give you his name, you can call him and confirm. That man was earning 3 times my salary. And that's why I think we need to discuss the whys. And that's why so I as I said, I believe 3 times. I believe that even if nobody has done this study and none of us know, but I believe from my experience as a woman, I believe that it is definitely possible that, and take out the Googles, the McKinseys, the Facebooks who have salary pay scales. Most companies do not. And most companies, I believe that the negotiation, the what. So that's why I say I believe even if we went back to associate, same company, I do believe that the data will still come back and show there is a wage gap.
Okay, this is what I'll say. I'll
May I respond to her
No,
specific
let me
point?
make my point.
Oh wow, you're the one who's telling us to stop shouting. Why are you shouting?
Cyril, let me make my point. You guys have been. I feel like it's a triangle.
This is 5 years of pent-up frustration of
Let me
topic.
Guys, this is what I'll say.
It's okay.
No.
It's okay.
Okay, let me say this. So we all agree, as Cyrus and Gashan are saying, there is a phenomenon that is this phenomenon or phenomena? Phenomenon. There is a situation that appears that women are earning less than men. This is what I'll say. Ingashan has pointed out that there is a guy that was hired before him that was getting 3 times, right? There is a company that I used to work for. It has very many branches in this country. So you realize that all of them, on paper, they are called BGDMs, Business Growth Development Managers, right? But you will see that certain BGDMs are getting, say, 200,000. Others are getting 600. You realize that this disparity in payment is based on a number of factors. For example, now the business growth managers who were homegrown, that grew through the ranks to that level, are the ones that are earning less. But the managers that has been poached, they end up making more money. And I was seeing another research that was showing that one of the factors that lead to disparity in payment is usually something called agreeability. So agreeability is where the person, how nice are you? Like, you are warm, you are welcoming, you are agreeable, right? So people who are agreeable, you realize that they end up earning less than people who are agreeable, yes, end up earning less than people who are less agreeable. Because utaambiwa mshahara yako ni 20k, na utaweza kukataa. But so that now, to finish my point, you realize that the disparity in the payments, even when you're doing the exact same job, you're hired at the exact same time, the disparity might come in, not necessarily because of gender, but because of these other aspects. And I'll give you an example. The same research, I can send it, was showing that generally, and I'm not being sexist here, generally, women tend, on an average, and very keywords. I'm being very categorical, so I don't step on toes. Women generally tend to be agreeable. So that when you look at this on a global scale, you see that the payment it reflects. Exactly. We are not. It's not necessarily a system that is seeking to withhold women, but it is a system where what ends up happening is beyond anybody. Because if I tell you I'm going to pay you 20,000, regardless of your gender, and you accept that payment, you'll be stuck on that payment. In my own experience, when I joined my company, manze, mi ile mshahara nilipatiwa, I was thinking I was overkilling it. Kupata napata, I hope she's not listening. Some people who like, for example, now our admin earns way more than I do. The cleaner was having an S10, S15 or something. I don't know. So like a nice phone. Okay. And I realized I undersold myself because no, not a Mercedes. So like, you realize that I ended up underselling myself because I think generally I am agreeable. I was unable to negotiate. So this woman is earning more than me, not because it's been handed to her, but because Mimi, I was not able to negotiate my value.
I have a question as to your job that you mentioned. I have some key questions. How old are you versus how old is he?
It shouldn't matter.
No, I'm saying it should. I'm asking because just wait.
If
Just wait.
perfect experience, yes.
Just hold. Exactly. So, is he older than you? Does he have more experience than you? The agreeability issue. Is he a better negotiator than you? Did he have some inside information that he knew he could ask for a higher salary that you didn't have access to that information?
Excuse me.
Also, adding on that question, I don't know, did you also ask what did he do? Like, I was watching a video on that, the video I shared with you guys, the black guy who working with white people. Then he noticed the white co-worker who they'd started work with got a raise, and instead of saying that that guy is white, that's why he got the raise, he went to his like the superior and asked, why did that guy get the raise? And then he was told it's because he has a PhD. And then he went and got a PhD, then got the raise. So that's why I'm asking, did you ask why? Yeah. Hey, this is Kabingu, producer of the Two Mics podcast. We are happy that you've gotten to the end of this week's episode, which is part 1 of a 3-part series on the gender pay gap. This week's episode was a bit long, so that's why we decided to do 3 parts. And as always, we'd like to hear your feedback and know if you guys prefer us to be doing longer episodes in parts like this, or would you prefer to hear the longer episodes as one full, maybe an hour or 2 hour long episode. We're looking forward to your comments, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the audios.